Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out ProRevenge. Story 1. Revenge on the movie producer. Please allow me to note well in advance, this story is not mine. In fact, it's a rather popular story in a town I once lived in, Savannah, Georgia, and centers around one homeowner who got royally annoyed with a movie producer. There will be a note at the end about the fellow this story is about, for those interested. Okay, so first and foremost, when movie producers are looking for places to set a movie that takes place in colonial, or even 1,800 cities in the US, due to the sheer number of parks, wide roads, and period houses, they will often select Savannah, Georgia. They'll pull all the Spanish moss out of the trees, or trim it back, pour dirt on the roads around the squares, and effectively backdate that part of the city to fit most any place, even up to some having used the area as a setting for places like early Washington, D.C., and even places in Britain, or France. Typically, when producers do this, they will pay each homeowner whose house is used as background flavor, a couple $1,000s for the licensing to do so. That will be important later. Trust me. They issue some rules, like no electric lights being visible, not coming out of any door that faces the street, and you have to move your automobiles away from the drive, if you have a drive. Well, 1979, a producer came from Hollywood with the intention of using Savannah for that very purpose. Specifically, the producer was from one of the big three-letter TV channels, and was working on making a made-for-TV movie talking about the events after the assassination of Lincoln, and the subsequent accusations of the doctor present at his death. The production went to the city to seek permission, and then sent an announcement out to each of the homeowners telling them of the various days that the shoot was going to take place. However, much to their downfall, they also noted that the production company would not be compensating the homeowners for the use of their homes as backdrops. This was met with some great annoyance by the homeowners, who turned to the city for help, only to be told that it was their civic duty to allow the use of their homes. Most everyone agreed to this, and bit their lips. One homeowner, however, didn't. He decided to get revenge on the production, attempting to screw up their shooting every chance he got. He first started by leaving his car out in front of his house, only to have it towed before filming started. He threatened legal action against the studio, but that fell on deaf ears. He forbade the use of his home in some of the shots, but the production company got the city to make him back down. Eventually, enough was enough. So he waited, biding his time until he was certain they were filming. When the day came that his house was being used as a background shot, the homeowner grabbed a massive Nazi flag and hung it out front of the house out of one of the top windows. The production company balked. They knew that this ruined any shot they'd used there, and what's more, they started to question just when he'd put the flag up. Was it just the one day, or had all the previous shots, some which showed the house from across the square, been ruined as well? They turned to the city for help, and the city just basically shrugged, saying that it was his First Amendment right to do that, and implied that had the production company paid the homeowners, as had always been done before, then this probably wouldn't have happened. In the end, the production company had to end shooting, and go to the homeowner begging for him to remove the offending flag. He did eventually do so, but only after his lawyer got a contract in writing that required the production company to pay all the homeowners for having their homes in the shot. The flag came down, and shooting wrapped in less than a day. Interestingly, it's said that in the movie in question, The Ordeal of Dr. Mudd, there are several shots where you can see a bright red Nazi flag flying from one of the homes in the distance. That stunt cost a producer quite a substantial amount of money, and pushed production back at least a year while they tried to find every single instance that the flag flew in the background shots. This homeowner would go on to himself become very famous, though not for a good reason. Even so, he lives on among the legends of that city, both for his revenge against a movie producer, and his later brush with fame. The fellow in question is none other than Jim Williams. Williams was an American antiques dealer and a historic preservationist based in Savannah, Georgia. He played an active role in the preservation of the Savannah Historic District for over 35 years. Williams was arrested on May 2, 1981, for the alleged murder of 21-year-old Danny Hansford, with whom he had been having a homosexual relationship, at Mercer House. After the subsequent 4 trials, a record in the state of Georgia, Williams was finally acquitted by a jury in Augusta in May 1989, 8 years after his arrest. Williams died in 1990, of heart failure, though AIDS is also suspected. He is the center of the story Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil novel, and later Clint Eastwood movie. Story 2. Pro-Army Revenge, PAR, is PAR for the course. Edit, dear reader, I spent the majority of my career in Special Operations Forces, SOF. I carried a gun, not a pen. I am not a writer, nor an editor. I am not forcing anyone to read this saga. I understand it is long, but a TLDR will detract from the story. I was told to post here because it is doing well at r/petty revenge, r/malicious compliance, and r/military stories. Dear reader, I had an illustrious 21-year career in the United States Army, USA, which miraculously concluded with an honorable discharge. 21 years and 14 combat deployments produce a lifetime of stories. The overwhelming majority of memories are comical, and worth remembering. Like the time I borrowed another human's truck, or the time I relocated an artillery display in my barracks room. However, some memories are extra ammunition after a live fire exercise, LFX, worth donating to Chuck and Barry. Memories suppressed so well they never happened. However, these memories can be unintentionally triggered. I worked at the bad place before attending assessment and selection. Working there was the sole reason for attending selection. The bad place, TBP, was a 3-star command, and nursing home for dying careers. TBP was a mixture of National Guard, Army Reserve, active duty, and Department of the Army civilians. It was essential a foreign planet for a soldier who had grown up in Regiment and the 82nd Airborne Division. Overnight, I had transitioned from airborne infantry to the equipment tracking officer. It was my sole purpose in life to source pre-deployment training equipment, PDTE, for deploying National Guard and Army Reserve units. These units would request specific types of equipment, and it was my responsibility to source at least 2/3 of the requested equipment. I should mention, my boss at TBP was Department of the Army Civilian, DAC. I had 10 years of service under my belt, and it was the first time my direct supervisor was a civilian. Now, I have no issues with civilians, but I do have issues with horrible leadership. Mike was horrible. Mike was a dirty diaper, full of shit and always on my ass. Side note. Sloppy, I feel the need to mention TBP recently moved. Reader, moved? Sloppy, yes. Deep South one day, and the Midwest the next. Reader, aliens? Sloppy, nope. Base realignment and closure, BRAC. Reader, what? Sloppy, the Army decided to close some bases and expand others. Reader, puzzled. Oh. So, what's this have to do with the story? Sloppy, there was 2 active duty soldiers and 2 Department of the Army civilians performing the duties of equipment tracking officers in the Deep South. None of them moved, and all continuity was lost. Reader, okay. There had to be some kind of transition though. Right? Sloppy, yes. All 4 of them spent countless hours informing me how terrible of a human Mike was via email. Reader, oh. Story time again. Dear reader, I had no earthly idea what my job was, or how I was to perform it initially. Making matters worse, I would quickly learn Mike had no earthly idea either. Mike only knew what Z, final product, looked like and was mentally unaware of the other 26 letters in the alphabet. Mike was less useful than blinker fluid and football bats. Fear not, dear reader, it only took 3 months of working from 0500 to 2300 to garner a nascent understanding of my roles and responsibilities. Thankfully, I had wonderful counterparts at sister organizations. Furthermore, they were all equally aware of how useful Mike was. Fast forward 4 months. The section was still composed of exactly one sloppy. I was 25% of the total allotted manpower performing 100% of the duties. If you wait until the last minute, it only takes a minute, was my battle cry. Life was grand. I had developed standard operating procedures, SOPs, and automated matrices to assist me. I was even starting to catch errors from the department that validates equipment requests. Note, remember, it was my duty to source 2/3 of the equipment request. I had a very unpleasant one-way conversation in August of 2011. Captain, CPT, Richard Cranium was requesting I provide 3 Rhino buses for training. Dear reader, I kindly explained why fulfilling this request was unfeasible. Problem solved, right? Nope. I then received a call from Lieutenant Colonel, LTC, Richard Cranium. I then received a call from Colonel, COL, Richard Cranium. The issue quickly became a self-licking ice cream cone of chaos. Ring. 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 Sloppy, the bad place, G4 Equipment Tracking Officer, this is Rank Sloppy speaking. How may I help you, sir or ma'am? Caller, this is Major General, MG, Richard Cranium from the California National Guard. Side note, civilian readers, the Major General is the boss dickhead for all National Guard soldiers in the state of California. Sloppy does not get calls from general officers, goes. Ever. Sloppy, how can I help you, sir? MG Richard Cranium, angry I am calling to inquire as to why you will not fulfill our equipment request. Is it not your policy to provide 2/3? Dear reader, I was now a bit agitated. I had clearly explained the issue to the company commander, battalion commander, and brigade commander. I now have an irate god-level commander on the phone and 2 courses of action, COAs, are cycling through my mind. I could kindly explain why this request was absurd, or I could go full regiment sloppy. Slot machine sloppy. Pulls lever. Wheels spinning. Still spinning. Regiment sloppy. Sloppy, sir, I clearly explained to the previous commanders why I cannot fulfill their request, and provided other options. MG Richard Cranium, I don't want options rank sloppy. I want my 3 Rhino buses. Sloppy, time to get fired attitude, Roger sir. Well, as I told the previous commanders, there are only 5 Rhino buses that exist on Earth. 3 of them are deployed to Iraq, and the other 2 are in Afghanistan. Do you wish for me to forward this equipment request to Forces Command, Forcecom/4-star General? MG Richard Cranium, oh. That won't be necessary rank sloppy. Sloppy, are you sure sir? I mean I can. MG Richard Cranium, no did you explain this to? Sloppy, every single one of them sir. MG Richard Cranium, disregard. I have some phone calls to make. Dear reader, the world was right again. At least I thought it was. It appears the Major General was slow to contact his subordinate leadership. The Colonel had contacted Mike demanding I supply his unit with Rhino buses. One would think a simple explanation would suffice for Mike, but one would be wrong. Common sense is an elusive fickle creature for Mike. It was like trying to explain what number the letter purple tastes like. Mike, did you tell a unit they can't have a piece of equipment? Sloppy, yes sir. Mike, why? Sloppy, because there are only 5 of them, and they are all deployed to combat zones. Mike, well, you need to figure out how to get them. Sloppy brain, ah? Is this man fucking serious? Sloppy brain, laughing I think he is. Sloppy, like call the Pentagon and ask them to redeploy them from combat because some unit needs to train with them? Mike, it's not your job to validate equipment. It's your job to source IT. Do you understand? Sloppy, lip service Roger that sir. Dear reader, when one door closes, check for an open window. I had over 90 units on my desk, and 30,000 pieces of equipment to source for the month of August. It didn't take long to find a window to crawl out. I found a unique request from an infantry unit. They requested a plethora of equipment and it all made sense, minus 4 pieces of equipment. Sloppy brain, pretty sure those 4 pieces of equipment need to be on a different type of request. Right? Sloppy brain, yeah, but it's not your job to validate IT. Sloppy brain, oh. Right. Dear reader, I sourced it. All 4 of them. It was not an easy task either. I literally had to scour the entire country for available inventory. I made phone call after phone call to make this request happen. None of the items were collocated. They would need to be transported from the far stretches of the continental United States, and failure was not an option. I had fulfilled my responsibilities. I source the equipment and turn it over to Mike for signature. Mike's signature magically allocates funding and authorizes the transportation of said equipment. Dear reader, shit typically rolls downhill. However, this specific request defied the laws of gravity. Shit was going to roll uphill. I crawled back through the window and waited a month for the fallout to ensue. Truth be told, due to my heavy workload, I had forgotten about my magnificent accomplishment. It was another horrible day at work, until I received a magical phone call. Ring. 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 Sloppy, the bad place, G4 Equipment Tracking Officer, this is Rank Sloppy speaking. How may I help you, sir or ma'am? Caller, hello. I am Sergeant First Class, SFC, Ricky Bobby. I am the Long Range Surveillance, LRS, Platoon Sergeant for unit name. Sloppy, hey Ricky. How can I help you? SFC Ricky Bobby, well I am looking at 4 helicopters, and I am told I need to sign for them. Sloppy, yes mode let me look at your request. Shuffling noises. Sloppy, yes. You requested 2 A-60L Blackhawk helicopters and 2 A-47 Chinook helicopters correct? SFC Ricky Bobby, yes. But I requested them for SPIES, Special Purpose Insertion Extraction System, and FRIES, Fast Rope Insertion Extraction System, training. Laughing, I am not a pilot. What the hell am I supposed to do with 4 helicopters? Sloppy, laughing I mean, once you sign for them, they're yours. I suppose you could try to fly them? SFC Ricky Bobby, laughing fucking army. Suppose I could. Sloppy, laughing don't worry man. I've got your back. I have already coordinated with our aviation validators to support your request. I will give you their number. SFC Ricky Bobby, I'm ready to copy. Sloppy, 867-5309. SFC Ricky Bobby, thanks man. Sloppy, call me back if you have any issues brother. I will walk upstairs, G3/operations, and get this sorted so you boys can do SPIES and FRIES. SFC Ricky Bobby, Wilco, will comply, man. Dear reader, not only does shit roll uphill, but shit rolls uphill faster than I expected. I had just hung up the phone and was departing for lunch. I didn't make it 5 feet before I was beckoned to Mike's office. There are 4 chairs in Mike's office. One with a load-bearing capacity of at least 400 pounds, and 4 normal people chairs. I was awkwardly surprised to find it was already standing room only. The G4 Colonel, Deputy G4, Civilian/DAC, and G3, Operations, Colonel were already in Mike's office. Mike, it seems we have an issue rank Sloppy. Sloppy brain, we? Sloppy, really? I am not aware of any issues sir. Mike, well unit name is at Fort Hood, and the battalion commander is wondering why one of his platoon sergeants signed for 4 helicopters. Sloppy, shocked did they request 4 helicopters? I can go get the equipment request. Mike, I have IT. Right here. In my hands. Sloppy, puzzled. Okay. Did they request? Mike, yes. They did. Sloppy, I don't understand. They. G4 Colonel, the issue is, we needlessly shipped 4 helicopters across the United States. G3 Colonel, there are already helicopters at Fort Hood. Helicopters, and pilots, there to support spies and fries training. They are there specifically for this type of request. G4 Colonel, rank Sloppy. Did this request not look odd to you? Sloppy brain, hysterical laughter. Sloppy, absolutely sir. Entire room, shocked faces. Just baffled as fuck. G4 Colonel, then why did you source it? Sloppy retells entire Rhino bus saga. Sloppy, sir, as I understand it, it's not my job to validate. It's my job to source it. Mike made it very clear on multiple occasions. Mike, angry rank Sloppy, do you realize you just cost the army over $100,000 to ship equipment we didn't need to ship? Sloppy, sir. G3 Colonel, pissed off. No Mike. You just cost the army over $100,000. Mike, sir. G4 Colonel, Mike. It is your signature that authorizes allocation of money and shipping. Did you tell rank Sloppy it's his job to source? To not validate anything, and only source? Mike, sir, I did, but... G4 Colonel starts walking out. G4 Colonel, Mike. Let's have a meeting. In my office. Sloppy brain, oh. That sounds bad. Sloppy brain, yeah, but Mike. Not us. Sloppy, right. Sloppy retreats to desk. Side note, I know the G3 Colonel. We had worked in the same unit when he was a major. G3 Colonel follows Sloppy. Sits on Sloppy's desk. G3 Colonel, laughing hysterically, how in the fuck did you do it? Sloppy, do what? G3 Colonel, find 4 helicopters? Sloppy, I called everyone. I leveraged my network of contacts, and made it my mission. G3 Colonel, what did your counterparts say about the request? Sloppy, they have the same sentiments towards Mike. G3 Colonel, shaking his head honestly. That's impressive. Sloppy, sir, I was going to get shit on either way. So I decided fuck Mike. G3 Colon, yup. Fuck Mike I guess. Dear reader, thank you for reading my Petty Army Revenge, PAR. I have good news. I no longer worked for Mike after that interaction. Other misdeeds, stories, came to light after that encounter. I had a long desk-side meeting with the G4 Colonel and fully detailed my relationship with Mike. It's nearly impossible to fire Department of the Army civilians, but it was easy to move me. The G3 Colonel found a more suitable position for an infantryman. It also sucked, but he gave me ample time to prepare for assessment and selection. I was at TBP for 18 horrible months before I found greener pastures. I could lament on all the horrible things, but it's not worth it. Why? At least I know where to go if I ever need 4 fucking helicopters. Cheers. Sloppy. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.